The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com. Hello and welcome to the latest live edition of Wrestling with Johners Live, of course. Proud partners of the Johners Podcasting Network, and today I've got the man behind Odyssey Pro Wrestling up in Blackpool, Ethan Edwards. Ethan, how are you doing, my friend?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, and so happy to be talking to you. We did meet very, very briefly at TNT Extreme Fields last October, yes. But I know that you were very preoccupied, a lot going on. We're going to talk about that a bit later on, because that was an awesome event to be there and to be a part of. But what we're going to be primarily talking about in the first 5 or 10 minutes is you got your next show coming up, Shipwrecked, in 2 days' time, Saturday the 19th. An exciting lineup, an exciting card. But before we break down the matches and talk about the show itself, as a promoter, how are you feeling about the show 2 days out? A little bit of nervousness there, a little bit of anxiety maybe. How are you feeling?
Yeah. There's always the sort of pre-show jitters. Kind of, have I thought of this? Have I covered that? I remembered this. Have I done that? But we've been very, very lucky so far. Like, everything always comes together. Like, on the day, everything builds up. We've got an amazing team that we really, really couldn't do it without. So they always come through. And, 2 days out, it is just a case of finishing, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and we'll be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just mentioned there that finishing touches over the next couple of days. You're traveling up before the show on Saturday, of course. But you must be so pleased with how Odyssey Pro Wrestling has been received so far and how well it's gone so far. You're 5 shows in. Saturday will be your 6th. You started in August last year, but it's been an amazing journey. Although it's only 6 or 7 months into that journey, you must be really pleased with everything so far.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier with how it's going so far. Like, the action the guys have put on so far has been absolutely incredible. Because in the ring, it's them that's doing it. We move the chess pieces into place, but they're the ones that really nail it. So yeah, I couldn't be. There's always things like we want to do better, but I think that's a time thing. You learn over time, and you think, oh well, I didn't quite like that, so let's do this next time, or that was all right, let's try doing that a little bit more in future, and things like that. But overall, it's been a dream. It really has.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the first 6 months of Odyssey Pro very, very soon. But let's talk about the show on Saturday then. And I've got a few graphics I'm going to bring up just to kind of illustrate exactly what we're talking about. This here, Shipwrecked, Saturday the 19th. What's the venue? What's the location, Ethan?
So it's the Leighton Institute in Blackpool. We were there in November for Peer Fear, which was an incredible show, and it was an incredible venue. And it was only ever really supposed to be a one-off in that venue. We have our home in Morecambe at the Alhambra Live, but we went down to the Leighton Institute to run a one-off show, to run a charity show, and we just fell in love with the venue. So we just had to get back there as soon as we could.
Yeah, absolutely. And because we're live, we encourage anybody that's watching at home on Facebook Live, Twitch or YouTube, if you want to get in touch, if you want to ask Ethan any questions about his time in the wrestling business or about Odyssey Pro Wrestling, of course, please get in touch. Send us your questions through your chosen device, and we'll do our very best to answer every single question live on air. If you're using Facebook Live, you want to send us a question through Facebook Live, probably best to go to streamyard.com/Facebook, where we'll be able to see your image or your icon picture and your name on screen. Otherwise, it will just come up Facebook user. Yes, we're not sure who's getting in touch. But let's talk about the matches that have been announced for Saturday then, Ethan. And we're going to bring up each of the matches announced so far. And as the man behind Odyssey, you'll know better than anybody else. Tell us about the individuals involved, what sort of match we're going to expect, and maybe if there's a story that put these competitors against one another. So the first match we're going to talk about is Andre Decker versus Nate Reese. I've got to be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with these individuals, but enlighten us about this match and the two involved.
So Andre Decker has been a thorn in my side since our very first show in August. When you come to an Odyssey Pro Wrestling show, we have two types of tickets. We have our VIP tickets, we have our standard tickets. And the VIP tickets get you a front row seat. It gets you a VIP meet and greet before the show, and you get your photo taken with one of our wrestlers, or two, depending on how many we want to get out there. And we had RPD and Rick Marcus be our VIP meet and greet on the first ever show. And Andre Decker, who was a man I decided not to sign, decided to crash that VIP meet and greet. And since then, he's just interfered, specifically in RPD's business quite a lot, and sort of messed around plans that we try to set in place for Odyssey. He recently won the Overboard Rumble, which gave him a contract to cash in for a championship match at any time. He tried to do that at the end of Overboard itself. However, the show had finished, so he couldn't do it. So I said, you know what, that's absolutely fine. You can cash that in April at our War on the Shore show. But however, in the meantime, in Blackpool, we're going to put you against one of RPD's oldest friends, that being a man named Nate Reese, who's from Blackpool. He bleeds Blackpool, he bleeds Tangerine. And I'm expecting him to give Decker a really, really tough time. I might have an idea or two in place for the match. But yeah, Decker's been a bit of a problem throughout Odyssey Pro Wrestling so far. So I really hope to see Nate Reese taking down a peg or two.
Awesome. And thanks for giving us the background on that one as well. But what about this one? 2-Bit versus Rob Drake. Give us your kind of your 2-Bit on these two individuals in the match and the story behind it. Another fascinating match, I'm sure.
Yeah, so 2-Bit is one of the best wrestlers that we have in Odyssey Pro Wrestling. He's incredible. He went undefeated up until the final of the Odyssey Championship tournament, where unfortunately he lost to Ryan Hunter, but he gave it his best go. 2-Bit's problem is his queen. He's the Rat King, but his queen Jennifer likes to help him out, and he likes to take the easy way out. And I think that's kind of it cost him the championship. So putting him up against a man in Rob Drake, who again is another person from Blackpool. He is an incredible powerhouse wrestler. He won the Fatal 4-Way that he had at Peer Fear, and against some serious competition. He was wrestling Sam Bailey. He was wrestling it was Sam Bailey, Rob Drake, Big Guns Joe, and Keenan. And Rob Drake was able to walk away the victor from that. He put a good show in him for himself in the Odyssey Rumble, and it's just a match that I feel like for a wrestling audience, for a fan that like that sort of hard-hitting style, it's the perfect match for that.
Awesome. And like I say, a different type of match to what we spoke about for the first match. But you've got a couple of tag matches as well, and this being the first of them, the Freak Show versus Made to Last. I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling, and I'm sure this is going to be a great match for all the fans in attendance on Saturday. What can you tell us about this match?
So the Freak Show are the most unpredictable tag team in all of British wrestling, I would say. They are led by Isaiah Quinn. They are his Freak Show. And you've got a guy in Will Carter who has incredible speed and agility, and his strikes are always really precise. They might not be the hardest, but they'll just on the button every time. And Made to Last are a team that I've had my eye on for a while. They've got a really great style. They work really well together as a tag team. And I just think you know what, it would be. I think the match is going to be in a positive way. I think the match is going to be a car crash. Like, I just think you're just going to have four guys that are just going to go at each other and put their bodies on the line. And, you know, it's going to be the most unpredictable match, I think, that we've got on the card.
Oh, fantastic. Looking forward to seeing that one. And there's a man that I've seen, say his name has really got out there over the last year or so, Scotty Rourke versus Lucas Neon. I'm guessing that this is going to be another fast-paced, dynamic, high-octane match. But what can you tell us about this match and the story leading into it then, Ethan?
Yeah, so we've got two guys here who haven't been able to pick up a win in Odyssey Pro Wrestling yet. Scotty Rourke has had some pretty well-known, in my opinion, very, very good matches with RPD. They were the feature match that we put out for free after our first show. We then had RPD versus Scotty Rourke versus Lance Rivera at our show in December. And he's just never quite been able to get over the hump. And we've also got another guy in Lucas Neon who has, in a very, very short space of time, become incredibly popular with our audience. He's really, you know, upbeat and goes for it, and, you know, shows a lot of fire. So I do think, although you've got the speed of Scotty Rourke, I think you've got the heart there of Lucas Neon that's really going to sort of carry that match. And I'm really interested to see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting that Lucas Neon is becoming a crowd favourite, and you can obviously tell by his name and his outfit that he's going to be popular with kind of the family audience and the younger audience, and going to get behind him big time. Yeah. We spoke about one tag match earlier, but look at this one here. You got Synergy versus Reese and Rogan. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting Reese and Rogan and watching them work at Wrestle Carnival last month. Two amazing guys, two awesome big guys as well. But I know whenever they're in the ring, you're going to see a war. Synergy, I'm not too familiar with, but what can you tell us about these two teams and the match as well?
So this is potentially the match I've been most excited for since the last time they were in the ring together at Pier Fear. So at Pier Fear, the main event was a triple threat tag team tables, ladders, and chairs match featuring Born Ready, which is the team of Rick Marcus and RPD, versus Synergy versus Reese and Rogan. And they threw everything at each other. And then I was told they had never had a 2-on-2 Reese and Rogan versus Synergy match before.
Yeah.
And I knew we just had to do it. We absolutely had to do it. And then during the Odyssey Overboard Rumble, there was a moment where Synergy, you know, big, powerful guys, very, very entertaining, but very powerful guys, were in the ring. And Reese and Rogan, led by their manager, Chris Brooker, went to get in the. One of them came out, went to get in the ring, and Brooker decided, actually, no, stay, wait. And they waited, and the next entrant came in and went in. They still waited, and then the other one came out. So we had Reese and Rogan on the outside, ready to go. Sent them in. They destroyed the ring, and then came up against two brick walls in Synergy, and we got a real taste. Then they you know, ready to go for each other. And then later on in the night, Reese and Rogan took on the team of Lucas Neon and Nick Cutter, and just they decimated him. They flattened him into the floor, unfortunately, and
they did what they do best.
They did what they do best. Yeah, I look at them and I just think Hulk smash, and at that point they carried on after the match, and I think Synergy had seen enough and came out to try and stop them.
Yeah.
And then they started brawling with Reese and Rogan, and it took our entire locker room to come out and separate these four people. So what's going to happen when they can actually get at each other in a real, you know, it's going to be mental. Like we released the footage of the brawl on our page, and I'll share it again after. But that brawl was insane. Like some of the cause it's a family friendly show. The kids just went mental for this brawl. Like I've never seen anything like it. And we'd just done a Rumble match before that.
Oh, incredible, incredible. Let's have a look at this match here. Then we spoke about RPD earlier, and Sam Bailey came up in conversation as well. These two are facing each other on Saturday at Shipwrecked. This looks like a mouth-watering match between two guys that can go big time.
Yes.
What can you tell us about this match leading into it on Saturday?
So this would be the second time in Odyssey Pro Wrestling that RPD and Sam Bailey have gone one-on-one. The first time was at our second show, Stormy Waters, when we started our Odyssey Championship tournament. They went one-on-one in the first round. And Andre Decker, who I was telling you about earlier, got himself involved and cost RPD the match. Sam Bailey is currently the only person that has beat RPD in one-on-one competition in Odyssey Pro Wrestling. So RPD wanted to avenge that loss in his hometown. Who were we to say no? But then
Exactly.
Sam Bailey decided to, you know what, he saw an opportunity. Now RPD is due to be in a triple threat match at War on the Shore in April, against the champion Ryan Hunter and Andre Decker in a triple threat match for the Odyssey Pro Wrestling Championship. Sam Bailey has put the challenge out there that the winner of that match goes on to the triple threat match. So there's some stakes there as well. But RPD wants to get back his win, whereas Sam Bailey wants to take RPD's opportunity at the championship.
Oh, brilliant! And like I say, RPD is becoming the face of Northwest Wrestling and Odyssey Pro Wrestling, one of the favourites there as well, and really storming through all competition in 2021 and having a great 2022 so far. Let's talk about this match then, Ethan. Katie Hawkins versus Tonga. Now, this is a different match to the one that was originally advertised up until maybe a few days ago, I think.
Yes,
but still a fantastic match to look forward to with I think, is Tonga your women's champion at the moment?
Yeah. So Tonga's the Odyssey Pro Wrestling women's champion. This match will be for the women's championship. Originally, it was scheduled to be a triple threat match with Tonga taking on Helena Razor and Alexis Falcon. Now, the back at Buried Treasure in December, Tonga won the title in a four-way elimination match against Alexis Falcon, Gia Adams, and Lizzie Evo. And brilliant match between the four of them. It was amazing to see live, like four of the best just in the country going at it. Now, Tonga has kind of got a bee in her bonnet about wrestling Alexis Falcon again, because those were the final two in that match. She's pinned Alexis Falcon. She's done with her. She doesn't need to wrestle her again. For some reason, I've not been able to get hold of Alexis Falcon. So I can't confirm her to be in the match because I can't reach her. So I'm looking into that, but unfortunately as well, Helena Razor's picked up an injury, so we want to make sure that she's safe and well first. So that gave us an opportunity, and it gave us the opportunity to bring in one of the fastest rising wrestlers in the Northwest, being Katie Hawkins.
Very intriguing. I'm sure there's a lot of unfinished business between Tonga and Alexis Falcon to be had somewhere down the line. Who knows?
Exactly.
Who knows? But that women's match is going to be absolutely fantastic. Definitely one to watch. And then we got this man here, the current Odyssey Pro Wrestling champion, Ryan Hunter. Now, he's put out an open championship challenge on Saturday. Give us the backstory behind that and what we're likely to see on Saturday, without giving anything away, of course.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's something's going to happen, and Ryan Hunter is almost certainly going to have an opponent on Saturday.
Yes. So Ryan Hunter in Morecambe is something else. It's the loudest reactions I've ever heard. And I've been to WWE shows. I've been to independent wrestling shows all over the country. Ryan Hunter in Morecambe is something different. The noise that man produces, like the crowd produced for him. When he won the championship, someone had an asthma attack. Like, they got so excited they had an asthma attack.
Wow.
For Ryan Hunter. He's from Blackpool. He still gets a huge reaction in Blackpool, and he wanted to do something special coming back to Blackpool. So, it's the kind of the perfect storm. He wants to get ready for the match in April. It's his hometown. He wants to defend the championship. So he wanted to give someone an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens, who comes out, who answers the challenge, what sort of match. And Ryan Hunter is going to be keen to defend his championship and to retain his championship on Saturday. That's going to be really, really fascinating to see what happens. And you mentioned throughout that lineup quite a few talent performers, wrestlers that are from the local area, from Blackpool, like Ryan Hunter, RPD. So it is a very much a home-based promotion where you've got home talent from that area. Was that always your intention to kind of use as many Blackpool-based talent as possible when you started Odyssey Pro?
Yeah. So with the Morecambe shows, there isn't really a training school in Morecambe, unfortunately. There was shows on in Morecambe before, but never really anyone from Morecambe. Closest we have at the moment is Ryan Hunter. He grew up and he trained and everything. He trained and sort of became the person he is in front of the Morecambe fans. When we decided to start running some Blackpool shows, we wanted to get some people from the Blackpool area in. We already had Ryan. We already had RPD. So we were very keen to bring some others in. So when we ran our Peer Fear show, we brought in Nate Reese, and we had Mickey Barnes teaming with him, who's also from Blackpool. We brought in Rob Drake, who's from Blackpool, and we just want local. Like the Odyssey Pro Wrestling is all about the story, and it's all about the connection with the fans. We're nothing without our fans, because if they're not buying into the story, then it doesn't really work. So having local people that people care about really makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we mentioned, Shipwrecked on Saturday will be your 6th Odyssey Pro Wrestling show.
Yeah.
But scattered throughout your first 5 shows dating back to last August, you've had a lot of kind of well-known wrestlers from the Northwest and around the country that are featured on the shows that aren't featured as part of Shipwrecked, like, for example, Chris Ridgway, you mentioned Alexis Falcon, Rick Marcus, and many more, including Nathan Cruz, who I think fought your champion at the last show, Overboard, at the end of January, who aren't featured on this show, or certainly not announced. But that must be kind of a big thrill for you to have, let's say, top UK talent on your shows from show number 1, really.
Yeah. So with Odyssey Pro Wrestling, the key has always been for the fans, and it's for the fans that are going to be coming back. We want to try and use a sort of core-based roster. We don't just want to bring people in willy-nilly. So if someone's come into Odyssey Pro Wrestling, we want to try and feature them again in the future. We don't, we're not in the business of, here's this one-off person. So why do people care about that if you're just there for a one and done? It doesn't make a great deal of sense. Now, it might be that it's a while before they come back, but if we take Chris Ridgway, for example, Morecambe has quite a rich history of wrestling dating back to the FWA, through the XWA, and then you had paid promotions and Alpha Omega and now us. During his time in Alpha Omega, from when it went from paid to Alpha, Chris Ridgway was a member of the roster back then, and he wasn't the nicest of chaps, shall we say. So when he came out to make the save for Ryan Hunter at our first show, the fans at first kind of went, no, not you, what are you doing here? Stay away. Because they remembered him from 4 years previous when he'd banished one of their favorite wrestlers. They remember, they care. So, there's no point in us just bringing people in as a one and done. And the beauty of bringing, someone like Nathan Cruz in, who, in my opinion, is potentially, probably one of the best, if not the best professional wrestler in the country. One of the truest professionals that we have. To get into, from a fan point of view, I got to sit backstage and just watch him and Ryan Hunter go, and it was amazing. It was brilliant.
Yeah. And I'm sure all of those will feature in Odyssey Pro shows in the future. But I know that Nathan Cruz, like I say, put in a storming performance in the last show at the end of January, Overboard. But we will get back to Odyssey Pro Wrestling very, very soon. But I need to throw a quick plug to our wonderful sponsors of the Wrestling with Jonas podcast. And that is, of course, 1310 Apparel, who sponsor this very podcast, and, of course, the network, the Jonas Podcasting Network. And if you go over to their Wrestle Merch Central store, you can see their full apparel, including their hardcore range, their lucha range of shirts and hoodies, beanies, and then, of course, their more traditional 1310 and Four Corners apparel you can see there. They do sponsor many top UK and international talent, including Heidi Katrina, who's been on this show, and Northwest Strongs. We just spoke about him, Mr. Chris Ridgway. And if you head over to their Big Cartel store, 1310.bigcartel.com, or their WrestleMerch Central store, you can get the Heidi Katrina 1310 apparel t-shirt there. And of course, as a listener to the Wrestling with Jonas podcast, or a viewer to this podcast, you can take advantage of our deal with 1310 and check out on their WrestleMerch Central store. You can use the discount code 1310WMC and get yourself 10% off at checkout on any of that lovely swag that you just saw there from their WrestleMerch Central store. Once again, that's 1310WMC, the discount code at the WrestleMerch Central store. And thank you very much to 1310 Apparel for being fantastic sponsors. But Ethan, back over to us. And I want to I'm very, very intrigued about what the inspiration was, what the spark was, and the initial idea behind creating Odyssey Pro Wrestling, and how that kind of vision first came to you.
So, I got into British wrestling through the promotion that was operating in Morecambe at the time. They were Alpha Mega Wrestling, run by a chap called Charles Nelson Riley. And when he decided that he didn't want to do it anymore, Target Wrestling came into Morecambe for a little bit. And then when Target Wrestling decided to leave, there was that opportunity, and it was just one that we just couldn't turn down. You know, Morecambe is such a special place for wrestling, and so it goes so far back. Like, they used to film World of Sport tapings in the Winter Gardens,
Yes.
So Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks and all those guys, were in Morecambe all the time. You then had, as I say, the FWA there, Alex Shane, and I think Raven was there at one point, and just this rich wrestling history, and it just seemed a shame to let it sort of end. The Morecambe, it's the fans is the main reason we've done it, to be honest. Like, without the fans that we have, it would just be any other promotion, and the atmosphere is what sets us apart from everyone else. So we were keen to keep that that spark that Morecambe has, keep that going.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the fans being kind of the lifeblood of the promotion. I mean, one question I was going to ask you is what do you think differentiates Odyssey Pro to a lot of the other promotions around the Northwest? What do you think is its unique selling point? You said that it's a kind of more for the family audience. It's a family product. But have you got something that you think is quite unique to your shows?
Nothing I would say is majorly unique. It's just the heart of our stuff is it's family friendly, action packed entertainment. Those are the three sort of key philosophies we hold. So family friendly, we need to make sure that it's a night out for the family. It's as much noise as adults make during a wrestling show. I know I've been bad for going to a wrestling show and just sitting there during the match going, okay, yeah, just sort of analysing it and watching it and things like that, not really enjoying it. Yeah. Whereas when you've got a kid there with their brother or sister or their parents, and, oh my God, did you just see what happened? They took all of them to get them out of the ring. What's going on? Like, they just make it so much better. They make it so much special.
100%. Yeah.
We invest in the wrestlers. Which lots of promotions do, so it's not anything new, but it's the wrestlers that make the difference. By people investing in these people and giving them a story and a reason to care about these people, that's why people get so invested.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more regarding family audiences and when the kids really get into it. And that really kind of brings the noise level and the atmosphere up for sure. But speaking of kids watching wrestling, let's take it back to when you were a young wrestling fan. I'm assuming you've been a lifelong wrestling fan or been into it for a long time. Can you remember how you first got into pro wrestling yourself as a fan?
I remember as a kid, my parents used to watch wrestling a little bit, and they didn't really go out a great deal. So they were like, well, we don't go out, so we'll have Sky TV. So I was very lucky to have Sky TV as a kid, and wrestling was just sort of there. But my earliest memories of wrestling, I owned 4 VHS tapes, 4, 5, I think 5. I want to say 5 VHS tapes. 4 WrestleManias. So it was WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 7. No, it was 4 VHS. Sorry, WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 7. No, it was 6. Sorry, WrestleMania 6. The Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. I used to watch that match religiously. And then the other one was In Your House Mind Games from 1996 with Shawn Michaels and Mankind.
Some good shows for sure.
And I remember from that In Your House Mind Games, I remember the opening match was Savio Vega versus Justin Bradshaw in a strap match. And then he went on and wrestled someone else immediately after. And I just used to think Savio Vega was the greatest wrestler in the world because he wrestled 2 matches in a row. And I always used to be really freaked out by Mankind just because he was a real psychopath. And Goldust was always such a big deal to me as a wrestler because the first time I ever saw him, he was wrestling The Undertaker. And I just had those VHS tapes. So I would watch religiously WrestleMania, as I say, WrestleMania 6, so Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, and it was
brilliant show, fantastic show. Yeah, in that main event, unbelievable.
Yeah, so
it was not a technical masterpiece, was it? But just kind of the atmosphere and just and it wasn't a bad match considering who was involved. But
exactly.
Love that show, and that main event was fantastic.
And then because we had Sky, as I say, I remember watching, having the ability to watch wrestling. And used to watch, Live Wire and Heat and all those things. And I remember, I think it was I turned 9. It was my 9th birthday, and I had a bunch of friends around. I went to put something on the TV as we were all eating, and I put on the wrestling, and it was the point where Big Show choked The Undertaker through the ring on Raw. And then my friends were hooked from that moment on as well. So then we'd start wrestling in the playground and things like that, getting into trouble. But no, I was wrestling as a kid the whole way, and then teenage years, everyone else sort of grew out of it, and it just sort of stayed with me.
That's awesome. We got our first question come through from one of our Facebook viewers. Let me just find the correct question here. What was your first wrestling show that you watched live? Can you remember? Did you go to many live wrestling shows as a youngster?
No, I didn't. The first one I seem to recall seeing a holiday camp show, a Haven or Butlins or one of those. I remember kind of catching that, but the first one I properly saw live was PCW. Actually, it was PCW's Tribute to the Troops show they did at the Preston Guild Hall, and what was the main event? Was Drew Galloway versus Shaw Samuels as the main event. They had RVD versus Lionheart, which was incredible. They had my first time seeing the Hooligans live as well, and they were nuts. And they took on Billy Gunn and Mr. Anderson. And genuinely, I think they really upset them because they just they would do a hold and then they just start marching off like the Bushwhackers. It was really weird. So yeah, that was the first ever wrestling show I saw live. And then not too long after, I went to see the first ever the first UK tournament, the first WWE UK tournament.
Wow!
I went to night 2 of that. Yeah. That was incredible show, because it was just down the road in Blackpool. I couldn't not go. I had to go. And I think it must have been like a week or two before that I'd actually started helping out at Alpha Omega. So it was like right around the same sort of time. I'd sort of all in one go really just decided to kind of go all in with wrestling.
Yeah. What was that? How did that transition happen? How did you get involved with Alpha Omega Wrestling, and from being a fan and now kind of being part of the business, so to speak?
So I performed for quite a few years. I used to do, I still kind of do a bit. I did a lot of like local theatre in Lancaster and Morecambe area. And I kind of got a bit fed up with it. I was just fed up with the way it was going. I was fed up with, annoyingly, the drama behind drama. It really annoyed me. So I thought, I was sort of sat in work one day and I was like, well, no, I need some sort of creative outlet to kind of carry on. It's just, I don't want to do that anymore. I really like wrestling. Well, maybe I want to do more wrestling stuff. And I was just scrolling through Twitter, and referee John Myers, based in the Northeast, had just kind of put something up. And at the time, I was like, I could be a referee. That would be brilliant. So I messaged him and asked for some advice. And he sort of pointed me in the way of Alpha Omega. And I didn't become a referee, but I became a backstage interviewer and I became a ring announcer and kind of all that kind of stuff from there. But it was literally just because I needed some sort of creative outlet and I really liked wrestling. So I just sought it out. I just went looking for it.
So this would have been, what, about 2017, 2018 time, I'm guessing?
Yeah, to 2016, 2017, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, so whenever the same year as the first UK tournament, I want to say.
Yeah, I think that was early 2017. So about 5 years ago.
Yeah, God, 5 years already. Jesus.
Yeah, amazing how time flies. And you've done so much in that time, and obviously we get back into Odyssey Pro very soon. But I think when I first kind of came across you on Facebook, and we've been Facebook friends for a few years now. Like I say, ring announcing. Have you done some commentary work as well? And you've been a general manager for different groups. Tell us about the different roles and the different promotions you've had a hand in.
Yeah. So ring announcing was kind of where it all started. Well, not ring out. Backstage interviewing was where it all started. So Alpha Omega used to do backstage interviews that they would play at the start of the shows and release them online. And I remember it was one day they promoted their old backstage announcer to commentators. They needed a new one, and they were just sort of Charles was just sort of talking to someone about it. And I was sort of nearby, and he said, we need to find someone. I went, I'll do it. And this was during my first show. So at the end of my first show, when they were looking at it, and I said, I'll do it if you want. They went, all right, cool, got it. Next show, you do this. So from there, I literally just then started doing the backstage interviewing. And then KOW in Barrow, who are another really, really good family-friendly promotion. That, again, I feel like saying family-friendly is a bit of a disservice because they're just a really great promotion. It's just there's kids that come to the show as well. They needed a ring announcer, so I went down there, had sort of my audition for them for ring announcing. It was the first time I'd ever done it. Was the main event of one of the biggest shows of the year.
Wow.
They were like, right, because they had their general manager at the time, this chap called ALP, who is a wonderful, wonderful human being, but he's a terrible, terrible boss. He was like, right, I've got business to take care of. Here's your ring announcer for this one. So I came out and did that, and they're like, cool, really happy, you got the job. So I was ring announcer there, and then they needed KOW needed a new general manager as well when ALP got ousted from Power. So again, put my name in the hat. Said, I'll do it. I can do that. So general manager, tick. Ring announcer, tick. Backstage interviewer, tick. And then I just sort of started doing it in more places. So Alpha Omega had me join up with Silent Mark, who's the ring announcer we use now. Silent Mark is one of the most entertaining people I've ever met in my life. He is very, very funny. He's very, very good with the crowd. Like, one of the biggest responsibilities of any good ring announcer is interacting with the crowd in between the matches and helping tell the story before it actually is told, and keeping them engaged. I wasn't very good at that. I put my hands up and say I would just do things to entertain myself and probably not the audience most of the time. Whereas Mark, he's got the sort of similar philosophy of I'm just gonna, I'm going to do this. It's going to be funny, and it's really funny, like for the crowd. But yeah, he's brilliant. So if you need a ring announcer, get in touch with Silent Mark. He's amazing. Anyway, so me and Mark sort of did a dual ring announcer thing, and we did that, and then I just sort of got in contact with places really. So I got to know Steve from the LWF.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they needed a ring announcer, so I said, "Oh, hi, Steve. I can do ring announce. Here's some of my work." And he went, "Yep, brilliant. Come on down." And I love the LWF.
Great promotion. Had Steve on the podcast a few weeks ago. Yeah,
he's a brilliant guy. And I love what they're doing. Like their focus on we've got our academy, and we're trying to really promote from within. All the there's guys that I've discovered from the LWF. So like Synergy, for example, the first time I ever saw Synergy was on an LWF show. It was the very first LWF show I announced for them, and I just knew straight away that they were incredible. And they were one of the first names that I sort of put down as we've got to bring those into Odyssey. It has to be Synergy, because they were kind of doing a very similar thing in a lot of places as well. Synergy were very weird, the people were treating them as, we're the big, tough, muscly guys. Grrr. And I was like, yeah, but these are two of the funniest people I've ever met. Why are you not showing off their personality, And I feel like in Odyssey, we've really been able to do that. Like them playing Guess Who to try and decide who got a shot in the Odyssey Championship tournament to this day is one of my favorite things I've ever watched. But yeah, so, I just sort of get around and just ask up really and sort of say, do you need
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes you a lot of people wait to be asked to help out with promotions, or wait to be asked to be booked. Sometimes you kind of have to throw your hat in the ring and kind of say, well, I'll do a bit of this and I'll do a bit of that, and But
I try to be as versatile as possible.
Exactly.
There's no point in just I'm just a ring announcer, that's all I do. I never that. Like I went down to KW and started training at their training academy just so I could get a bit more knowledge. I would go to LWF whenever I could to work with them, to train with them, to try and get a bit more knowledge, and that sort of thing. So when the shows were on, if I could do something to help, I would do whatever I could to help out. And then from there, I was just trusted by the people that were in charge to help.
Yeah, brilliant. I want to take you back now to last August, your first show for Odyssey Pro, Set Sail it was called, wasn't it? I believe.
Yes.
And British wrestling was just coming back. A lot of companies reopening their doors, July, August. Tell us about that time for you, starting your own promotion, a new promoter, let's say a new company, Odyssey Pro Wrestling, uncertain times as well, especially with everything coming back, everything being kind of a bit of a reset for British wrestling, still kind of in the midst of this ugly pandemic that we have, British wrestling having been in the wilderness for the last year and a half. What was that time like for you?
Hard. Really, really hard, because we were supposed to originally debut Set Sail in May 2020.
Wow.
So we'd actually printed all the posters up, we printed all the flyers up, we'd announced some of the roster, everything was in place to go May 2020. And then pandemic. In my real life job, I got made redundant a week before the first lockdown, so I didn't even know if we were even going to be able to do it, from that point. And then we just sort of, because I'm not the only person that runs Odyssey. There's a team of us that do it. But we just sort of waited and consolidated and looked at what we had and tried to make it better. And we looked at what we had and we tried to make it better. And we talked and we planned and we made sure that everything was ready to go as physically best we could. So the moment we got that right, now go, we could just jump straight into it. So it was hard. It was hard work. And then when the show actually came around, the response that we got was one of the most amazing things that I've ever experienced in my life. We we fit 250 people in the Carlton that night, in the Alhambra that night.
This is your first show.
First show,
people.
250
That's
people.
Good.
Yeah. You know, and I knew straight away that, you know what, show 2, we're probably not going to have 100, 250 people again. And we didn't. And, you know, it's one of those things. It was the first show back. It was one of the first real sort of live entertainment pieces that was going on in Morecambe at the time. We were a brand new promotion, so people wanted to check us out. We'd made quite a lot of noise before the show even happened, because we marketed in a very particular kind of way to try and keep interest in certain things. But whilst also trying to focus on local stuff as well.
Yeah.
And then just, you know, people like, for example, Kurt Johansson and Simon Hill, our commentators, it was their first time commentating a show. So they had people come down to support them as well. You know,
two great guys, by the way. Love Kurt.
Brilliant.
Love Simon.
Love them both. Like we wouldn't, you know, they do a very, very good job of commentary, and you know, it's something I've only done once. So Extreme Fields is the only time I've ever done commentary, and it's a very, very hard job. And they make it look really, really easy. But yeah, that first show, like I remember doing it, and then I remember afterwards, and just sort of the wave of relief that actually worked. It actually happened. Like, I don't know if. No, it's a feeling I get every time. But that first time I got it was amazing. Like, but actually pulled it off. We did it. Like, and you know what? People have come back, so they must have liked it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You know, and Morecambe's not the most easily accessible place in the world. It's right on the coast. You kind of get to Lancaster, and then you kind of have to get across to Morecambe. And to me, as someone from there, Lancaster and Morecambe are basically the same place. But trying to explain to someone how to get there is a bit more difficult. So the fact that we keep getting people coming back has been amazing. But I think for me, the thing I'm most proud of is I just get to do a show with my friends. I get to have a good time. I can't really ask for much more than that.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd say I'm quite intrigued by the fact that being a new promoter after such a rough time for the British wrestling industry. At the end of 2021, you were 4 shows in. You had back-to-back shows up to the end of the year. So, I mean, it went from 0 to 100 pretty damn quick. What was that learning curve like for you, going from August to December after your 4th show? I'm guessing that you grew a lot. You learned a lot as a promoter. But kind of tell us about that journey from August to December.
So we were very, very lucky that, as I say, Charles Nelson Riley, who came before us, is a very, very good friend. So there was lots of questions to him straight away, like, you know, what did you do here? What did you do here? What did you do here? And we just sort of, you know, the other guys that run the company as well spent many years with him, much longer than I did. So they picked up a lot from him as well. But then I also thought about the other shows I've worked. So people like Steve, people like ALP, Target, you know, like what have they done? What's worked? What's not worked? Like what's, you know, and we've been very critical of ourselves as well. Like, you know, this went well, but this really didn't. You know, we're very lucky in that we've got Ant the editor in to do all the video things like that, so we can really sort of we watch back, like when the footage comes through, we that night we all sit down and watch it, and then we, you know, straight away messaging, oh, I really like this wasn't so great, you know, that worked. And then from like a promoting strategy, like, you know, hitting social media every day, like try as best I can to get a post out between 6:30 and 7:30 every day, something that's interactable, something that's going to kind of further along a story, because we're telling stories at the end of the day, like, and then it's getting boots on the ground in Morecambe as well, to actually go and put flyers in people's hands. And, you know, as much as this is a wrestling show and we've got some of the best wrestlers in the country on our show, I still sell this as a family entertainment, because that's what it is. Like, if I was a kid, if I would, you know, I want to take my kids to this kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I want my kids to be there. I want them to see the show. I want them to Like, oh, Dad, this like my daughter's favorite wrestler is Ryan Hunter. Like, she's absolutely mad obsessed with him. More so than her other favorite wrestler, Bobby Lashley. For some reason, Bobby Lashley was her favorite. So she's like, oh, I like Bobby Lashley, but I like Ryan Hunter more. And she's got there's this lovely lady called Sue who runs a knitting store called Sue's Wool and Wizardry in Barrow, and she knits like little dolls of some of the wrestlers. So there's one of Ryan, there's some of the Freak Show, there's some of Rick, and my daughter's got a little Ryan Hunter one that just sits in her bedroom. She absolutely adores him. So.
Brilliant. And you mentioned earlier about how important social media is to you and to all promotions, really, and getting your posts out, being a little bit different, a little bit unique with your social media as well. And just going through the Odyssey Pro Wrestling Facebook page and various socials, you obviously show your backstage interviews there and a bit storyline progression through these interviews as well. You got a new kind of program, a new skit that's just come out. Is it Meltzer that does his? Mate, when I saw that yesterday, amazing, totally different to anything else out there at the minute. Really drew you in. Fantastic performances by the people involved. Tell us about some of the things that you tell us about some of the things you do to kind of on social media to grab people's attention, because it's definitely working.
Yeah, so I had the Meltzer, brilliant. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. Phenomenal. That is all Isaiah Quinn. That was his brainchild. They put that together. It's wonderful. It's the most bonkers thing I've ever seen. But that was all them. They said to me, like, oh, do you want to see it before we put it out? I was like, absolutely not. I want that experience with the fans for the first time. But that's it. We channel the creativity of the wrestlers because they know their characters best. You know, I sort of say, right, well, this is kind of what we're aiming for. This is where we want to go with this. And they go, oh, okay, well, I could do this and I could do this. And, you know, like we have like a plan of like the promos that we want to film every show. But then there's one that I need to put out tomorrow, actually, where the two guys just grabbed the camera guys and just said, "Oh, can we do a promo?" I was like, "Yeah, go for it. You know, if you've got something, if it's good, we'll put it out. If it's not, we won't use it. Like, yeah, there you go. You know." But it's people wanting to further their story because they know like the plan for their story, because they know like what's expected. Like they want to push it to be the best that it can be. And I think the wrestlers really do appreciate kind of the direction, kind of, okay, so this is where we want to get to by this show. This is what we're aiming to do. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So how about I do this? I was like, yeah, perfect. Yeah. Because it's them that's doing it. I can sort of tee the ball up, but they're the one that has to knock it out of the park. So I might as well let them use their own bat, is the way I see it.
Yeah. Like I say, you know, obviously you're the kind of man behind it, you're the face, the figurehead, but you've got these amazingly creative people, haven't you, that are obviously invested in their character and invested in Odyssey and invested in their storylines when they're kind of coming up with their own kind of promos and ideas and angles and things they want to shoot. It's like a promoter's dream, isn't it, really? Yeah. And like gold dust.
Yeah, we literally just say, right, so this is what we want. We want, you know, you're going to wrestle this person at the next show. This is why you're doing it. Go ahead and film a thing. Yeah. You know, because there's some people that like to script it out first and kind of say, right, well, here's a script, but it's not, I don't want you to go and do this word for word. This is to kind of give you an idea. But I think that kind of like to me anyway, that hamstrings people a little bit because they get a bit fixated on what's written. Whereas by us kind of going, well, this is where we want you to get up to. Throw it up and let them do it.
Yeah. Funny that, isn't it, when you give people bullet points and a general idea, you know, how much more effective it is instead of having it word for word scripted for them. WWE, are you listening? But moving on, and I mentioned earlier, we've been Facebook friends for a couple of years now, but the first time I actually got to say hi to you, and it was very, very brief, was at TNT Extreme Wrestling, Extreme Fields. It was at the back end of October last year, the Electric Warehouse in the centre of Liverpool. I think everybody referred to it as the Crazy House because I think that was what it was more commonly and more lovingly, affectionately called. a fantastic day. I mean, I got there about 11 o'clock. The action started at 12,
Mm.
finished at 8 o'clock. I think it was about 14 or 15 wrestling matches. And
16 in the end.
Was it 16? And there was bands playing upstairs. So they had like 4 or 5 matches in a band, 4 or 5 matches in a band. It was a brilliant day. It was something different to what I've ever seen before. You were there representing Odyssey Pro Wrestling. I'm going to bring up a little picture here, first of all. Here we go. This was the match that was representing Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Ryan Hunter, the man, of course, and Rick Marcus. But first of all, tell us what a thrill, what an honor it was for you and your company to be a part of that. Obviously, it was, spearheaded by TNT Extreme.
Mm-hmm.
They had quite a few promotions from the Northwest. There was yourself. There was BWR, the LWF, Wrestle Island, and of course TNT. And I'm probably missing 1 or 2. But to be invited to be a part of that amazing show, like I say, 8 hours of wrestling and rock music must have been a thrill for you.
It was incredible. Like, I think we were the first company announced. We were either the first company announced or we were the first company announced to actually feature a match on the show that wasn't TNT. So that was an incredible honor. And I think we'd only run 2 shows by then. Yeah, we'd only done 2 shows at that point. And then we got that announcement from TNT, which was amazing. And it was an incredible day as well, because as a fan, I just got to go and watch a bunch of wrestling and see a bunch of guys like that I'd never had the opportunity to watch live in person before. Like someone that I'd always needed to go and see was Robbie X, for example, who incredible. Was incredible. Like, I've never seen someone do some of the things that he did that he just made look so effortless. Like it was incredible. But then you had other guys like Isaac North, for example, who just has that presence about him straight away. And that was amazing as well.
Shall I tell you what, his match with I can't remember the name.
Who was his opponent? That had the bread, wasn't it?
Yeah. The kind of the luchador. That was my favorite match of the night. It was just I love comedy matches. I'm gonna have to dig out his name while you're talking, but that was absolutely fantastic. And Isaac North, kind of monster heel versus his comedy luchador from the Northwest. Fantastic.
Slapped him with some bread.
Biscuits and French bread. And
it was something, wasn't it?
He bounced off the ropes when he tried to get into the ring. Absolutely hilarious. But I rudely interrupted you. Please
no. So like it was a brilliant day. Like and it was great interacting with new fans as well. When I say new fans, like new people that were discovering Odyssey for the first time. Because we can get a little bit. Everyone can do it. Like, we all get wrapped up in our own little bubble. Like, we've got our fan base, and that's kind of it. But that's not the only fans out there. So it was really nice to get in with and chat to some new fans, and sort of see TNT. And it was the first time I'd ever been to a TNT show as well. So that was incredible. It was a really amazing experience to be there. And I'm really intrigued as to see what they do next, because they've been really, really good to us. Like, to say, we did that. We had Ryan Hunter defend the Odyssey Pro Wrestling Championship against Lance Rivera on one of the Extreme VIPs for one of their Extreme shows quite recently. And, they didn't need to do that. They... Jay just wanted, like, from the impression that I got, Jay just wanted to make wrestling better, and that's the best. That's the best thing. It's so nice when promoters want to work together for the good of wrestling, rather than, oh well, that's my patch and that's my patch and that's my thing, and what are you doing over there? Why are you stealing my idea? It's the better communication that we have, surely that can only benefit. Like, a rising tide lifts all boats. That's always been my philosophy, from how we work with the wrestlers to how we work with other companies. We just want to be as we just want to lift everyone, because that just makes everything better.
100%. And you alluded to it earlier, but you had your first foray behind the microphone as a commentator with Simon Hill.
Yes.
You're one of your home commentators for Odyssey
Yes.
Pro, of course, and does now the commentary for TNT Extreme. How was that experience? Because you're obviously used to being behind a microphone, but in a slightly different setting. So that must have been exciting and maybe slightly nervous for you at the same time.
Yeah. So when I used to perform like theatre and stuff, I didn't really get nervous. But then when I get in wrestling, when I do new things in wrestling for the first time, I get really nervous. And I've always said, like, you're only nervous because you care. And so I really cared about that commentary. It was the first time I'd ever been able to do something like that. And to do it with someone like Simon, who, to say like before August of last year, Simon had never done commentary himself. To sit next to him as he leads commentary is incredible. He's so good. Like, you would think he's been doing this for 20 years. Like,
he's a natural. He's an absolute natural.
Yeah, like the fact that we get to use him on all our shows is, we're just really, really lucky, because when people actually realize how good he is, everyone's going to be knocking on his door, So to actually get to do commentary with Simon and to get that front row seat to him doing his thing, let alone the wrestlers doing their thing, that was pretty special. And then I just got to be a fan, like I am at home, like when I sit with my partner and we watch wrestling and I kind of start talking. I just, the difference was I wasn't told to shut up every 2 minutes. So,
yeah. And of course, shout out to Kurt Johansson. Obviously, we're long-time podcast colleagues, and you know Kurt very well. I know Kurt very well, but he's the usual. He's the play-by-play, or is he the color? He's the color guy, isn't he?
Color commentator. Yeah, Simon's our play-by-play, and
that's
Kurt's
right.
our
That's right. And I'll be doing a bit of work with Kurt in the future for Copenhagen Championship Wrestling when that comes around. But we've given a shout out to Simon and Kurt, but you mentioned earlier that it's a collaboration, a team effort to get the Odyssey Pro Wrestling shows, out there to the public. Mm-hmm. Who else do you want to give a shout out to that kind of works so hard behind the scenes that kind of helps you make it all happen?
So we have Ant the editor, who does all the filming and the editing and things like that. He is the loveliest person in the world. If for whatever reason he decided to just stop all that tomorrow, I'd still say, well, I'm expecting to see you at the show, because this is my opportunity to get to see you. You're amazing. I love him, and he does a lot. He puts in a real shift for us. We have our graphics and tech guy called Brian. Brian doesn't really work anywhere else. He just works for us that I'm aware of. He might go work somewhere else if he wants to, but he only works for us at the minute. And between Brian and between Ant, they make us look as good as we look. Like our entrance setup, that's Brian.
Oh,
that's Brian just went,
brilliant.
You know what, I want to design this. Okay, cool, we'll do that then. And when we get to Blackpool, we had access to the LED boards, but that means nothing if Brian doesn't make it look like it looked. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we're fingers crossed, because it's depending on the venue and if they can convert the files in time. But we're fingers crossed going to have custom entrances for all the wrestlers in Blackpool this time around as well. So that's something I'm really excited to see. I'm going to be. I think I might need a second photographer just to sit there and do the entranceway the whole show. But yeah, so there's those guys. We've got Lucy Simons, who is our resident journalist, because if you go to odysseyprowrestling.co.uk, we have written articles as well. So it's not just video content. We've got the written content as well. And that's all written up by Lucy, and she also does our backstage interviews as well. And she's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then to sort of peek behind the curtain a little bit, Chris Brooker helps direct all our promos backstage as well. He is incredible at what he does. The quality of our promos, to me, is wonderful. And that's because of Chris. We've got one of our co-owners, Liam. I'm not going to tell you his wrestling name to keep his identity a secret. But he, on the day, he's there with Chris, making sure all the promos are done. He's listening to me have a meltdown about something, and he's the level-headed one. Like, I'll kind of, on the day, I'll be like, oh, God, no, we've not got any chairs out. The ring's not here yet. The ring's not, what are we going to do? And he's like, Ethan, it's 1:30. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, but we're not ready.
Yeah.
You know, we need 50 more people to come tonight. And he's like, yeah, but last show we had like 60. I'm like, yeah, but I don't care. We might not. And, you know, he's the kind of level-headed one. And then, so we've got Rick, who is another one of our co-owners, who I don't think we'd have the caliber of wrestler we do if it wasn't for Rick. He really managed to get out there and find us some amazing talent, and, you know, knew some amazing talent from all the work that he'd done. And, you know, guys like Scotty Rourke and guys like JJ Webb and guys like Lance Rivera, who are those sort of up and coming guys that now people are just starting to realize just how brilliant they actually are. Rick was the guy that said, no, we've got to get him in. We've got to get him in. We've got to get him in, you know. So he's got a real eye for guys like that. And then, am I missing anyone? Yeah, that's the backstage team. And then just all the wrestlers themselves, you know, like if I could shout out every single wrestler, I really, really would.
We've spoken about most of them already, haven't we? But
yeah, like it's as I said, it's we don't have anything if it wasn't for them. Oh, there's two I really need to shout out, actually. Ryan Hunter, who goes above and beyond for us every show, with the crowd, with the support, with the helping out. And RPD is the other one as well. Like, if you'd have said to me that a guy like RPD would get the reaction that he gets back in August, I wouldn't have believed you. Like, I thought, oh, he's, you know, this is boxer guy and he's transitioned to wrestling. And, oh, you know, that's interesting. Okay, we'll see what we can, you know. But he just proves himself time and time again. But then he's got a legion of fans that come with him as well, because he's just the nicest man in the world. Like, you sort of have a conversation with him, and then, like, even if you already agree with him, you're ready to, like, agree with him even harder and fight for him at that point. Like, you know. So yeah, those two really deserve, like, a special shout out. But everyone on our shows, like, really puts a shift in, like, and that I think that's what helps make the crowd so electric as well.
Yeah, no, you got a brilliant team, a brilliant crew behind you there that makes it such a fantastic success. But one thing I want to ask you about, and a post of yours in particular that I wanted to talk to you about, it was at the end of Overboard, the 29th of January. You put out a post saying how emotionally drained you were after the Morecambe show. Tell us about the emotions of that day, going into the show, coming out of the show, and the reasons behind the post. That clearly that day, that show was emotional for you, and I'm guessing that the day in the life of a promoter is very stressful and emotional, with everything you need to. But that post in particular really kind of fascinated me about kind of your thoughts and your feelings of that whole day, and what kind of culminated coming out of it.
Yeah, so for me, that was it really was like a very emotionally charged, like, draining day, because I love the shows anyway. Like, you say, I live in Plymouth and I run shows in Morecambe. Like, I drive 6 hours to get there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I set off on a Friday night. I finish work at 4:30. I get in my car that I've already pre-packed and I drive up to Morecambe, and then I do a show on the Saturday, and then I get back in my car on the Sunday and I drive home again. You know what I mean? And that day in particular was different because I didn't know if we'd actually be able to pull it off in the first place. Like, we had a 20-man rumble and then 4 of the matches as well. So that's a lot of wrestlers in one show. So I didn't actually know if we'd pull it off or not. The last show, to me, I felt like we scraped through. So I was like, oh, how are we going to, you know, are they really going to get it? Is it really going to go? And then there was my involvement in the show as well. So I was unable to be a part of the December show because of Andre Decker. Last time we were in Blackpool, he attacked me, which gave me some head injuries and left me unable to travel for the show. And then, so it was my first show back in front of the Morecambe crowd, first of all. And, you know, I'm just there as the authority figure. I'm there to make the matches and stuff like that. But then when the crowd really sort of react to me, they don't need to. Like, I don't do anything. I just go out there and make some matches. Like, so to get the reaction I got, that blew my mind. Like, the Lucy Simons was doing our Instagram account that day. So during the shows, you can always catch it on Instagram, like clips of it on Instagram. And I've got the bit where I came out saved in my phone because the noise is just something else. And then I told quite a personal story when I was in the ring. So I explained about how that I don't live in Morecambe anymore. Because I didn't react. I've never actually planned on telling the fans that I didn't live in Morecambe anymore because I'm from Morecambe. That's just how I've always built myself, but I don't live there anymore. So I kind of talked to them about that. And I talked to them about COVID. And I talked to them about how I wasn't able to be home for Christmas in 2020 because of COVID. And then because of Decker's actions in November, I wasn't able to be home for Christmas that year when I was supposed to be as well. And he'd taken that away from me. So I talked about all that, and it was, really, really, I don't know, it just sort of came out, and fast forward to the Rumble, I made sure that he was number one in the Rumble because I really didn't want him to win that match. I didn't want him to have the satisfaction of winning that match. So Rick Marker's music sets to play, but Rick wasn't able to be there because he was still suffering from the bottle that he took from Decker at the previous show.
This Decker's not a nice guy, is he?
I haven't sworn yet, have I? So I'm gonna save it for now. I'm gonna do a Mick Foley trick and swear when it matters most. He's a real bastard. He's a real bastard. So it gets to the Rumble. He's in the ring. He's eliminated Nick Cutter, and then Rick's music plays, and Rick doesn't come out because he's still injured. And that it set me off. I'd had enough at that point, and I stormed to the ring and I slapped Decker in the face and took Rick's place in the match. And I thought I got him out, but I didn't. He was on the floor with me, and I thought, oh, I must have eliminated him as well. He must be out. I've done it. He's not won the match. Brilliant. And then finding out from senior referee in the night, Scott Bell, that, oh no, he hadn't gone over the top rope, because in that moment everything was just a blur to me. I had 1 minute I was in the ring, next minute I was on the apron, then he's on the apron, and then we're out. But then when he tried to cash in after that phenomenal match between Nathan Cruz and Ryan Hunter, as one of the best professional wrestling matches I've seen live, you know what I mean? And then he tries to spoil it, and I was just, had enough. And it was kind of that up and down, that topsy-turvy of a day, and
an emotionally charged day by the sounds of it.
It was
so much going on.
There was so much, and I'd never expect reaction when I walk out the curtain, and to get even it's Ethan, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So to get the chanting that I was getting, that's kind of what overwhelmed me the most. To feel like the fans actually really did care that I was there. Like, it's an amazing feeling.
100%. As we start to wind down this incredible interview with yourself, then, Ethan, I've got a couple of final questions. First of all, let's kind of look into the future, because you've got your schedule of shows set for the remainder of the year.
Yep.
So just very briefly, kind of tell us about some of them shows, because I know that we spoke a bit off air about you've got a big show coming up in April.
So April 9th, we are presenting a show called War on the Shore, which is quite a historic show in British wrestling. It started way back in the FWA, back right in the day. And then it went through the XWA, it went through paid promotions, it went through Alpha Omega. So literally almost every wrestling promotion. There's been a War on the Shore with every wrestling promotion since 2005. So it's a tradition we were keen to continue. And so that's going to be a big show. We've got the biggest, albeit depending on how Blackpool goes, we've potentially got the biggest main event that we've had so far. One that's been, waiting to start since the pre-show of our first show, you know, the VIP meet and greets. That's where it all started.
Yeah.
In theory, when you kind of think back about it, and it's going to be incredible. Like, that's going to be the biggest thing we'll do so far. And then after that, you know, we've put out our dates. So we've got a show in June. We've got I think it's June, August, October. We're doing another. Our return to Blackpool is going to be in November. So we're doing 2 shows in Blackpool this year, but we're doing 6 shows in Morecambe this year as well.
Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, I can't wait to, because you're also available on Powered 4 TV, is that right? So we can see the first 4 shows up on Powered 4 TV for anybody that's listened to this and want to find out more about Odyssey Pro Wrestling. So Powered 4 TV is definitely the place to catch your first 4 shows of 2021.
Yep, and we've got some new things coming in the pipeline as well. So keep an eye on our social medias. So Facebook is Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Instagram is at Odyssey Pro Wrestling, and Twitter is at OPW_UK. Keep an eye on those, because we've got some interesting things that we're going to start announcing in the next couple of weeks. That's really going to kind of change the dynamics of Odyssey a bit, and I'm really excited to launch these things.
Yeah, absolutely. We got the addresses running along the bottom of the screen there for anybody that wants to follow you on Twitter or Instagram, and Facebook is quite simply Odyssey Pro Wrestling. But final question then. I'm guessing you've kind of answered this already in a roundabout way, but you've promoted 5 shows now, running into your 6th one in 2 days' time on Saturday, Shipwrecked. But what's been the proudest moment that you've had from your time as a promoter with Odyssey Pro since last August?
Oh man, my proudest. There's 2 things I've kind of got to say, really. So one of the things is I always write a note to the wrestlers every show to kind of just say thank you to them for coming and doing the show, and, you know, for being them and being as brilliant as they are, and to see them really, like, to see the appreciation that's been getting has been really, really wonderful. Like, I think I don't understand how people could sort of take for granted these people. Like, they're amazing, but just seeing how much it matters to them people, like, that really gets me a little bit. And you know, when people talk about the atmosphere backstage, like, it's nice because it means that those guys are excited to come back, which is always wonderful. But for me, I think it's probably the first show we did in Blackpool, Peer Fear. We did. It's available for free on Powered 4. Not on Powered 4. It's available for free on YouTube, on Powered 4 TV's YouTube. The main event, we did the Triple Threat Tag Team TLC match. But the whole point of that show was to raise money for Brian House, which is a charity based in Blackpool. We did it in memory of a young chap that was struck by lightning, unfortunately killed him. He's called Jordan Banks, and he used to do a lot of work for Brian House, and it was something that was quite close to RPD, because Jordan had actually come to see him wrestle in his debut match. You know, so the first opportunity we got, we wanted to do something for him, and I think, if I remember rightly, we ended up raising £1,400 for Brian House at that show, which was spectacular. So, you know, the goal was to just put on the best possible show we could in order to raise as much money as we could, and we did that. And, you know, it's something that's probably the buzz. Like, when we were counting up afterwards, I remember that feeling afterwards, and I feel like if I ever, I achieved that. That's if I ever take nothing else away from British wrestling, we put on one of the most bonkers triple threat tag team TLC matches ever, and we raised some money for to help children with life-limiting illnesses. So, you know, we did some good.
Brilliant. Like I say, proudest moment there for sure, 100%. Before we let you go, I'm guessing there's still tickets available for Shipwrecked
Yes.
on Saturday. So for anybody sitting on the fence, I'm in an hour and not quite sure, that might be in the area and want to come and sample Odyssey Pro Wrestling and sample the excellent card that we went through at the top of the show, tell us where we can get the tickets from and why they should definitely be there.
Yeah, so you can get tickets on the door. Those tickets will be £10. However, if you think ahead and buy online, you can go to odysseyprowrestling.co.uk/shop. You can buy tickets to Shipwrecked. You can also buy tickets to any one of our shows that's coming up this year as well. Shipwrecked in particular, Reese and Rogan versus Synergy is going to be the first time ever. And there's no time like the first time. Do you know what I mean? Like, and to have 4 of the biggest, toughest guys in British wrestling all go off in a ring, that's going to be mental. To see Sam Bailey and RPD go at it one more time with that chance at the main event of War on the Shore, that's going to be nuts, because you've got 2 people with every, RPD's got everything to lose and Sam's got everything to gain. We have one of the best British wrestlers in the country in Tonga going up against one of the best up and comers in Katie Hawkins. So I'm really excited about that. 2-Bit and Rob Drake's just, if you ever watched a match and gone, oh, I bet that hurts, I imagine that's just going to be the whole match. You know what I mean? Like, it's just an atmosphere. Again, the Odyssey atmosphere, there's very little like it. Like, our fans really do care. Like, it's really Morecambe, but Blackpool give it a really good go, and Blackpool has got those really cool LED screens, so you really should come see those in person.
Yeah, 100%. But Ethan, it's been amazing speaking to you for the last hour and 20 minutes, which has absolutely flown by. And I said it would only go 45, but how's about an hour and 20 minutes? It's been incredible hearing about you and your journey in Odyssey Pro. Hopefully anybody out there that might not have been too familiar with Odyssey Pro before listening to this or watching this, hopefully you're a lot more familiar with one of the newer but more exciting UK promotions out there. So definitely check them out. But Ethan Edwards, it's been incredible speaking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a real pleasure. And hopefully we get to do this again soon.
It's got to happen. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.